message for the younger players and how to handle themselves on an NFL field and training camp?
Yeah, in terms of the intensity is going to pick up. Certainly the rules of engagement change a little bit in terms of being able to thud up if you get head up on a ball carrier, but still want these guys to get great work working together and not try to put anybody in a tough situation. They got to take care of each other.
Matt, there's obviously certain days on the NFL calendar, draft day, week 1, Super Bowl. How does first day of pads register for you?
Well, now you're starting to play some real football. So it's just going to be good to see these guys just, again, continue to work on our standards in terms of how we practice in our process. And so I'm looking forward to see these guys with more like real football.
I know everything's evaluated, but is it kind of like everybody gets a clean slate because it's more like real football?
Yeah, I mean, we're 4 days in, so I think everybody is pretty clean to start anyways. It's not until you get into, we're still putting installs in. Certainly, I think one of the keys is, so week 1, you get 4 days in, you kind of get back into the rhythm of our routine, and it's week 2 to me is where you got to get a little bit more detailed and be a little bit more intentional. That's how you make greater gains and more progress, and that's what we'd like to see from these guys.
Coach, by all accounts, Jordan had a really good practice on Saturday. How do you, as a staff, what are the keys to make sure that, or at least to attempt to make that the standard rather than a really noticeable uptick?
Well, I think it's never just one guy. So I think the guys around him played a little bit better. He was probably in a few better situations, but ultimately he went out there and he delivered some great balls. I mean, he threw a sail route to Jay Reed. That was a really good throw. It was a great route where he was going against Keyshawn, and we'd been running a bunch of overs, and now he brought it back the other way. And I thought the 2-minute operation was really smooth to be able to move the ball down the field and convert on a big third down the field to Samori. And I just think it's one of those things you got to continue to build on it, and certainly there's areas where he's got to continue to improve upon, and it's never going to be perfect, but we're going to coach it to be perfect.
You said last week you were commenting on Devontae and Quay and said you've seen a lot of maturity from those guys. So just what is the difference? How have they kind of shown that progress that you've seen from them from year 1 to year 2?
I just think how they carry themselves around the building, how they are in the meeting rooms. They're much more locked in, focused. And that's the beauty of this game is you get these guys coming from college and not quite sure what to expect. They get here and they kind of learn how we go about our business on a daily basis. And, I think those guys they love football. So it makes it easier when you have guys that love football and want to be great at their craft. I think they put the time in. I think there's great veterans in those rooms to learn from. When you talk about a guy like Kenny Clark, all you have to do is watch him on a daily basis and say, I want to be like that guy. Or Devondre Campbell is the same thing. And I think J-Mo and KO do a great job in their rooms. And but there's definitely been a standard set by some of those veterans, and they're just trying to live up to what those guys put out on a daily basis.
Matt, Quay was saying that he sought out Dr. Carr this offseason to maybe address some of the things that happened last year. Is that encouraging for a young guy to be kind of proactive about some of the stuff that...
Yeah, that's news to me. So certainly we always encourage that. But yeah, anytime that somebody is taking the extra steps to try to better themselves, that's absolutely encouraging, whether it's talking to Dr. Carr or whoever. When you see guys that are going outside of maybe just the framework of what we have to offer on a daily basis. Hey, our schedule, this is the bare minimum. When they go outside of that and they're trying to get better, that's really encouraging.
Matt, from that standpoint, where do you think Christian is differently, both physically and mentally, with maybe some of the stuff that he's done away from here as well?
He just seems like a much more confident player. And I think we saw that kind of take shape last year, about halfway through the season. You got to remember, I think anytime you're a young player and you miss all of training camp essentially. That's tough. That's difficult. So just him being healthy, he had a really good offseason, and just his knowledge with our offense. He is one of the most intelligent players that I've ever been around, especially, you talk about the wide receiver position. The thing that is so unique about Christian is you can line him up at the Z and tell him the next play, somebody might come out, hey, you got to go play F or you got to go play X. And he doesn't blink. And that's tough for most guys to do, just to switch your brain around like that. It's different as opposed to if we call a different formation and, usually your Z receiver's out at number 1 and you call a formation to put him in the slot is different than saying, hey, now you're the F, you're going inside. So I just think that his ability to do that is unique, and it's a great asset for us because it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of who we want to get in the game with him.
With that said, you seem to be pretty flush with slot options in your offense, and it seemed like when Christian lined up on the perimeter last year, that was when he was at his best. How do you balance that, being able to move him across the field, but also keeping him on the outside where he's pretty dynamic?
Yeah, that's always the balance that you got to try to find, and it all comes down again to when we start game planning, what we put on tape, where we feel like we can exploit some weaknesses in whoever we're playing, and we'll adjust accordingly. But you're always trying to push these guys to get enough repetitions at all the spots, and you guys know, our offense, who knows where they're going to line up, but I think that makes you more difficult to defend. I think when you go against teams that have a really good receiver and they move them all over the place, it's hard to roll coverage to them, and so that's a great asset for us.
Matt, how closely are you going to be watching Carlson after what happened on Saturday with his misses?
Well, I'm not going to overreact to like you guys after one practice, Spoon. That was a joke, but no, it's one practice. Certainly, you never want to see it, but it happens. It's only a detriment if you don't learn from it and if you don't correct it. And so it's going to be fun. He's not kicking today. He'll kick tomorrow. We're kind of working backwards from family night, but he'll kick tomorrow, and it'll be fun to see how he responds. And I think that's one of the challenges of all the sports. How do you respond when things don't go your way? And that's something that we're constantly preaching to our guys. And you got to truly have that next play mentality. And I know that's a lot of coach speak, and that it sounds easy, but it's not. We're all human. We all have emotions, and but guys that are able to respond and are resilient, I think they end up getting further in life. I watched. What was that on yesterday? I watched the Stephen Curry biography. Was it Underrated or something like that? And it was talking about his first game in college, going against Eastern Michigan or somebody, and he has 13 turnovers, and they were about to potentially bench him, and he comes back and has 35 points against University of Michigan the next game. And so sometimes you got to take your lumps. That's just part of life, and as long as you learn and grow, you're usually better for it in the long run.
Staying with the legs, I guess, what do you think of Whalen, kicking in the wind a little bit, and how he might be able to push Pat?
Yeah, he's done a heck of a job since we've gotten him, and he definitely has a big time leg, and it's great. You want competition at every position because it's going to push us to be better.
Matt, you guys have just the one cut down day this year, on August 29. Are you doing much different than anything different? Knowing maybe you can keep these guys around a little bit longer to get a longer look at them?
No, I just think it gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of how we play guys in the preseason and how we practice people, and I definitely am all in favor for that. If you want to rest some guys in the last week, you're afforded that opportunity just because you got more numbers.
Matt, you mentioned the benefit of competition. How good is it to have 3 backup quarterbacks standing in the wing of Jordan Love, just as Jordan did with Aaron? How good is it, especially during training camp, to have those three there at Coach Jordan?
Well, it's, those guys are fighting it out for the number 2 spot. So, yeah, you always want competition. I think we've talked about it in here, and it's hard to give 3 guys the adequate number of reps, especially when you got a younger guy as a starter, that you want to get him as many reps as possible. But, hopefully it'll start to separate itself the longer we're in camp.